YouTube. Today we got a video from the dog Ty Learned. We got Constain, Solo, The Boys. This is the epitome of hero content. Taking something like the Seven and putting them against the original title said Seven. This could be the entire verse and putting them against Stain, a high tier when he's fighting. Like Stain is like a Deku merchant. Where like the meme where like Deku's like, "Are you standing in the street?" Stain has like a mediocre power in terms of like the high tier ceiling of powers, but he has high skill to match up for it. And I think that'll make this an interesting video. As always, remember to follow, like, and as always, your main man Sly. Sign out to your timeline to provide you some content. Without further ado, let's slide straight into it.
This video was a donation request by Mr. Oreo. If you want your request for future videos,
Oreo
then please be sure to go
166.
and look at the link down in the description, and be sure to send donations through there. And obviously, the higher amount the money, the higher the quality. I gotta cook the vid in. And with that being said, let's waste no more time and
Just
compare
say-
amount the money, the higher.
It said $100. I thought that joint said nine. I thought that joint said 9,999. I was about to say, Ty, what are you about to put in that video? Ketamine?
The quality, I gotta cook the vid in. And with that being said, let's waste no more time and compare the hero killer of the My Hero Academia universe and how he stacks up
like
against
Kenpachi.
the Seven in The Boys. First things first, I think the most interesting thing to note when talking about this specific matchup is the philosophy of both universes and what specifically the hero killer Stain stands for. Stain kills heroes that are fraudulent in his eyes specifically. Anyone who works
Right.
purely for fame or money or clout are heroes that don't deserve to live, and The Boys is quite literally a verse
That's all
full
they
of
are.
fraudulent heroes or incels trying to be disguised as
Like,
heroes. Even the
ugh.
likes of Homelander, someone who seemingly does things for the good of others in the public's
fraud.
eye, is nothing more than a marketing gerbil in Stains. So how well would he do in the Boys universe? Can he just
Hey.
solo the Seven straight up on his own? Or is it a little bit more complicated than that? Let's talk about it. Now, like I said, the most interesting thing to note,
No
in my
shot.
opinion, would be really the interactions between Stain and the heroes of the Boys universe.
I like how it has the indie type style, but it has like the Capcom meters. And like that's actually tough.
So, of course, as the video will be going on, I will be comparing
that'd be
Stain's
panel.
stats to the overall hierarchy
You're
of the
wearing
Seven,
nails
but
for
I'm mainly
earrings?
going to be talking about the narrative with some scaling sprinkled in. If you want more casual stuff like this, then be sure to let me know down in the comments. Anywho, shut up, Tyler, and can you please talk about Stain and the Seven for God's sakes? Alright, bro?
First referred to himself in the third
I'm
person.
sorry, bro. I surrender. The big thing that we need to talk about when it comes to Stain is his main attribute, of course, that being his quirk. The quirk
Yeah.
that he has access to is called Blood
Like,
Curdle, which allows him
yuck.
to pretty much paralyze his opponent for an X amount of time depending on your blood type, if he manages to come into contact with your blood. And it's not like Stain needs a crazy amount of blood either. He just needs a sliver amount of blood that he gets from just cutting you with a knife simply. And as soon as that blood touches his tongue, you are completely paralyzed for a few minutes and completely vulnerable to whatever attack he wants to throw at you. In my opinion, this specific ability is what makes Stain so damn terrifying. He makes his quirk a
Facts.
perfect ability to apply in combat to take down pretty much any hero that he could come across. Even the ones that seem so invincible.
See, the problem is like his hard counter will be like people like cement tosser, bro. How you cutting it's made out of stone? Does he even bleed, big bro? It's like when you get to certain, you know what I'm saying, certain matchups, like put this against like a Kirby built individual, a Majin Buu built individual, and now it's like, oh man, ah shit, here we go again.
Like All Might. Even ones that seem so invincible, like let's say Deku or even Todoroki. Now with his superhuman physique as well, along with his knowledge of combat and his equipment of knives,
Yeah, it
he's
just
able to
depends on
take on
his
foes
speed
from all ranges and
when it
find
comes
some
to
way
the
to pierce your
boys
skin and
verse.
leave you paralyzed. And of course, since this does apply to pretty much anyone that he faces in combat, by extension this is an ability of Dura negation. However, Stain
Kinda,
himself
yeah.
needs to physically pierce your skin in order for this to work. Meaning if you are that much
Exactly.
stronger than Stain, his quirk is virtually useless. Now, as far as a realistic timeline to where Stain could, be placed specifically in the series, I'd probably say season 3. And to have this kind of headcanon scenario make sense, you just say instead of going to someone like Soldier Boy, the hero killer Stain is out and about and Billy Butcher would like to recruit him. And so let's say Billy ends up hiring Stain to go and kill the
Okay.
Seven, and Stain's first stop would be at Herogasm. This allows him to take on his first two opponents of the Seven, that being the Deep and A-Train, who, if I'm being honest, do not really stand a chance in terms of speed and AP. Who, if
Yeah, because if you look at the My Hero verse, he just dodged an attack from Deku with like the full Cali. And if you go all the way back to his speed feats pre that, he would definitely scale way, 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 way higher. As long as the speed advantage, these are that can take needles and can be stabbed, it's essentially an easy dub. You know, not to mention nobody in this verse has martial art experience besides Noir.
If I'm being honest, even in terms of speed and strength, are both out.
Not saying everybody don't have it,
even
but
if
you know.
A-Train had a healthy heart, we see that the Deep isn't even that far off from him in terms of actual strength, and A-Train's top speed itself caps out to around, like, barely Mach 1. And this is really nothing even in comparison to Iida's top speeds in Reciprocal Burst.
True.
Which, mind you, depending on your calculation, can exceed the sound barrier to over 10 to possibly over 30 times. And we have this same Deku who's getting outpaced by Stain also react to Bakugo's point-blank explosions. Which means Stain is well more than capable of combating and even reacting at those hypersonic speeds.
Yeah.
And in terms of raw attack potency, these guys are just like wall level at best, while Stain is unironically damaging a Deku who can break giant pillars of steel with his kicks alone. Mind you, for Deku to be able to do this and not shatter his foot instantly, he would need to at least be able to generate over 700 tons of TNT. Which would mean, unironically, Stain could pull a Raditz on both of these guys without breaking a sweat. And if A-Train were to try and run at Stain at top speed, it would pretty much be like an accelerate to Vilgax effect. And so these two would be killed with 0 difficulty, leading into the next members coming in, that being Noir and Stormfront.
Hey Tyler, didn't you say this takes place in Season 3 and Stormfront is dead?
Yeah, but I'm gonna include her anyway, so shut up. You can also throw Maven here as well, but I honestly don't think it really makes a difference. Anyway, I don't think Noir and Stormfront, despite being much stronger than the other two, really stand a chance against Stain here. Just because A-Train can hurt the likes of Kumiko, who can also hurt the likes of Prime Noir.
The only person who's giving this a comp unironically is Translucent.
And Kumiko as well was able to hurt Stormfront without her using her lightning, meaning Noir and Stormfront are scaling relatively above these two cannon fodder that Stain just easily no-diffed, meaning the same result should happen here. Also, just wanted to make a quick side note that Stormfront's durability is absolutely booty buns. Like, the knife that Stain is going to be throwing at her to try and get a piece of her blood will probably just decapitate her off rip. For someone who's apparently almost as strong as Homelander, she's literally made out of jelly beans, bro. I'm sorry. Now, after all of these heroes would go down one by one, I feel like Homelander has no other choice but to step in now. And no, I'm not going to be including Starlight or Maeve here, as I believe Stain would respect those two when he comes out to find how they function as heroes. And depending on which version of Annie this is, specifically the one post-Season 4, she might actually work with Stain unironically. Anywho, Homelander realizing his family is falling one by one, he would then be hit with the final strike, the final nail in the coffin by Stain, who would call out Homelander publicly thanks to Starlight's social media platform. Homelander would be furious and would then immediately fly to wherever the hero killer is streaming at, and Homelander would make note that this guy is just some schizo vigilante trying.
Hey yo, we outside. Is that Homelander?
Trying to look all flashy and seems pretty hypocritical considering he's trying to kill heroes who do the same thing that he's trying to do right now. Which is indicating that Homelander believes Stain is purely doing this because of clout. However, Stain would respond with how he doesn't do this for fame, but rather to better this crummy society he tries to cover with Scotch tape. But eventually, the world of heroes is going to be unmasked for what it really is and for what Homelander really is. Homelander would probably get the red eyes by this point, indicating that he's going to be using his lasers, and just before he can finish off his sentence, Stain would go in for the knife throw. While Stain's attack potency and speed is much higher than the rest of the boys universe, so is Homelander's, unfortunately. He's not only withstanding explosions or even being compared to neutron bombs, which far exceeds Stain's caliber of strength, but Homelander himself has reacted to high-speed explosions much faster than what Stain has actually shown. Now, Stain, depending on what version of the reciprocal burst calc you want to use, could be faster than Homelander, but even if Homelander is slower than someone like Stain, I don't think it would really matter because Stain simply just can't pierce his skin. But if you think not only Stain is faster and, you know, the off-guard would be a factor here, then Stain could paralyze Homelander here. But I don't see why this stops Homelander from just activating heat vision or legit just overpowering Stain. But I don't see this being the case because even if he's paralyzed, Homelander can just shoot a point-blank heat vision, which Stain has 0 counter to. Plus, in a realistic scenario, I don't think Homelander's actually going to be punctured by this knife. Now, I will say, depending on the version of Homelander, and if Homelander is being very stupid, he could lose this match. But if I'm being honest, Homelander just more than likely grabs Stain, flies up in the air, and sizes Charizard. And I think this is very fitting, especially for the boys universe. You can have a scene where Homelander would show Stain that he's creating a new era of heroes, and Stain's last words could be something how the cracks would soon start to show, before Homelander would publicly announce that the hero killer has been defeated. And we could probably get a similar ending to that of Season 3 where Homelander
That's kind of horrible.
looks like a hero here, but we already know deep down that this is not the case. So even despite Stain technically being right about the Seven and how the Hero Society is in this universe, he sadly
Can't
would
take
just
them all
simply not
down.
be strong enough to prove his point, but he would definitely get the last laugh here. With that being said, this was a very bittersweet ending to a versus battle, and I want to thank Mr. Oreo for the idea, and let me know down below what you guys would like to see next.
Shout out Ty, bro. Another good video from the dog. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you stay happy, healthy, and hydrated. And as always, you know, time to catch me next. Peace.